So what do you expect to learn from this talk? So I actually highlighted 5 points that you will know regarding this talk. First, what is online learning? We are all talking about online learning, etc. But what is online learning itself? Next, what are the advantages and the struggles of online learning? The highlight of my talk, online learning tips. What kind of learner are you? And lastly, making your room conducive for learning. So, let's start with this question. What is online learning? Can anyone volunteer? Unmute your mic, perhaps? Give us an idea. What is online learning? Based on your own experience, of course. If you are shy, you can type your answer in the chat box so we can read your answers. Okay, mukhang nahihiya sila. Sige. How about let's do this way? Let's try to define each word. So again, we have two words here. We have online and learning. So let's define first what is online and what is learning. So online learning. Online, okay, is an adjective that means controlled by or connected to another computer or a network. So when we say online, it is something associated with computer, with the internet, with technology. Okay, kaya nga 'di ba, most of you, siguro when I ask you to define online games, mas alam nyo pa compared to online learning. But other than that, you already know what online means, okay? What the idea behind online really means. And how about learning? So that is for online. And for learning, so learning is simply the method of us acquiring new knowledge or understanding. And when you combine the two, okay? So when we combine the definition of online and learning, we can say that online learning is the acquiring of knowledge using a network. Wait. Okay. Using a network and computer as a method. So simply, this is you studying on the online environment. Okay, online setup. Not in the classroom, but rather at your own home, facing your computers. Okay, so that is online learning. Okay, but what makes online learning appropriate with our situation? So unfortunately, we are under the pandemic, and again, we are under ECQ. Okay, and the only way for us to teach, to continue education, is to resort to online learning. So what makes online learning very appropriate with our current situation? So with that, allow me to give you the 5 advantages of online learning, or the 5 things that tells us that online learning is very appropriate to all of us. So first is what we call as upskilling. When we say upskilling, it is a term used to for people to take their existing skills and upgrade them so that they can perform better in current roles or have more potential in the online setup. So some of you are good with video editing, right? Some of you are good in photo editing, anything that is related to technology, which is actually not quite used in the traditional setup. So the online environment helps us to improve on that skills that are not used during the traditional setup. So for those of you who are good in video editing, photo editing, gaming perhaps, programming, you can now use it in the online setup. Next, second advantage of online learning is that it is self-paced learning. When we say self-paced learning, you are the boss of your own time. Okay? One of the key advantage to online learning is that students can complete their training or their lessons or their study in their own time according to their own schedule. So, kayo ang kayo ang may hawak ng sarili niyong oras. Ayun ang sinasabi natin dito. Especially during the modules, if you're familiar with the modules, you are the one in control of your own time. Kasi in our traditional setup, we have the schedule. For example, morning, we have the morning assembly. Next, we will have, let's say, math. And then after that, recess. So, meron ka schedule na sinusunod. But for the online learning, it is according to you, especially during your module class, whether you will use it to study, you will use it to do your performance tasks, etc., etc. Next, number 3, it keeps us updated. So, since everything is already in online, or we can find everything online, siguro guilty to pag sinabi ko, sir, naka-Facebook po ako kapag nag-online class po kami. Or bukas po yung Facebook tab namin kapag po nag-online online classes. Or sir, bukas po yung Messenger namin kapag nag-online classes kami. And at the same time, sir, bukas din po yung Discord namin kapag po nag-online setup kami. Siguro may iba dito guilty, but the advantage of that is that it keeps us updated to what is happening with around us, what is the trend, is there a cure already, is there a vaccine? Kaya nga 'di ba, there are a lot of you who are reacting when DepEd released the memo that we will have online setup for this school year. Because you are very updated. Because everything is already in the internet. You do not need to open your television to watch news. Everything is already in the internet. Subconsciously or intentionally or unintentionally, you can see all of the updates in the internet. So that's the third advantage of the online learning or online setup. Next, resource efficient. This is actually advantageous to the students first, to your parents rather. First, they do not need to give you allowance. Bakit? Nasa bahay lang naman kayo eh. Hindi nyo kailangan magpamasahe, hindi nyo kailangan humingi ng baon, kasi nasa bahay lang kayo. So that's the first one. Second one, you do not need to have a book. Most schools, they do not require a book simply because some teachers give their resources online. Okay, so nakakatipid sila. So that's why it's resource efficient. Next, for the schools, they are not using electricity because wala naman kayo sa school eh. So it is very resource efficient, okay? Pero hindi yun ibig sabihin na nakatipid yung school, okay? So it's a different matter. But for you students and the parents as well, it is very resource efficient because you are just at home. Tsaka mas nakakatipid pa nga sila eh. Kasi kayo yung naghuhugas ng pinggan, kayo yung nagwawalis instead of them. So it is very resource efficient, di ba? They see you studying and at the same time, they can actually give you chores to do at home. So it is very resource efficient. And for the last one, accessible to all. So, some of you might argue with this one kasi sabi nga natin, in our country, since we are third world, there are some groups of people who cannot access education through the online means. Simply because they do not have the means to as well, they do not have the materials, they don't have the resources. But overall, gentlemen, most of us can access the internet easily. Kahit wala kayong wifi sa bahay, magpa-load ka na ng 10 piso, you can already access the internet. So, that's the fifth advantage. At I am not saying that all, but most of us can access the internet very easily. Okay? So, with that, those are the 5 advantages of online learning. Hindi pa ako tapos sa talk ko Okay. So, let's proceed with, so of course, if we have the advantages, of course, we also have the disadvantages. So what are the disadvantages of online learning? Yeah. So what are the 5 disadvantages of online learning? So first one, you can't just raise your hand. This is not, this one, gentlemen, this phrase or this statement can be taken literally or figuratively. First, literally. Right now, hindi ko malaman kung sino sa inyo nagtataas ng kamay. That's the first one. If you have questions, if this is an online, if this is a traditional setup or we are in the classroom, I can already call your name and you can actually ask me a question. But for the online setup, you need to reserve all of your questions before, after the discussion. So that is the literal meaning of this one. But for the figurative part, for example, you are doing your modules. Okay? It is actually hard to ask questions simply, mainly because your teacher might not see your message or your teacher might not be online. Okay? So, instead of you asking the question to your teacher, what will happen is that you will resort to the internet. So, magtatanong ka sa internet. And you do not know how to use the internet effectively. So, you will have you have a lot of sources. Instead of you getting the right answer, what will happen is that you will be more confused. So, that's the first disadvantage of the online learning. The response coming from your teacher, or your method of asking your teacher will be limited because, of course, your teacher is having a new class, or especially during module class. We are expecting, or the teachers are expecting, that you will be the ones looking for the answer. So that's the first one. What's the second one? The second one, siguro ito, guilty most of you. It can be difficult to stay motivated. Why? In an online environment, sabi ko nga kanina, self-paced learning, in an online environment, you are your own boss and you are given a lot of freedom. So this can be a curse and at the same time a blessing to everyone. First, why is it a curse? Because at home, you are very distracted. That's the first one. Kapag nakarinig kayo ng tunog ng messenger, bukas agad. Or siguro napanood nyo yung trend sa Facebook na while the teacher is teaching, the student is playing COD. Hindi ko alam kung tama yung ganon. At meron pang isa, nag-alt tab kapag nagkaklase. So, it is very hard to stay motivated because you are not in the classroom. Iba kasi yung pakiramdam ng classroom, di ba? Kapag sinabi ni teacher na tahimik, tahimik kayo lahat. Kapag maingay kayo, papagalitan kayo, but in the online setup, we cannot do that. So that's why it is very hard to stay motivated because you are the ones who are controlling your own time, and at the same time, you have a lot of freedom. Gagawin ko ba to? Hindi. We are not, your teachers rather, are not online 24/7. So we cannot always remind you. So what will happen? We will always trust on you, okay, to everyone, to our students, na ginagawa nila yung dapat nilang gawin. Okay? It's not impossible, but it is difficult. Okay? Hindi porket sinabing difficult, ibig sabihin nun, hindi mo nagagawin. So, find something that will make you motivated. Okay? As much as possible. And the third disadvantage of online learning, ito, siguro, most of you already know this one. Plagiarism can be tempting. Hindi na ako magtatanong, okay? Let's say that most of the students, especially during quizzes or essay type quizzes, what will happen since hindi naman sila nakikita, we cannot see you. Okay, we cannot see you. You can open a tab and just search the answer there, which is actually disappointing. Because in the traditional setup, when we have the quizzes, all of your notes talagang wala. We tell you to keep your notes, etc., etc. And you are actually learning there in the traditional setup. But on the online setup, you have this, you can be tempted to open the tab. Okay? I am not saying this because it is stereotype. I am being stereotypical, but rather I am saying this through experience because, of course, we are almost done with our school year, and there are some cases that students are plagiarizing. Yung tinatawag nating copy-paste, diba? Especially when you're asking your classmates ano bang answer dito, they will just copy and paste the answer to you para hindi mo na sila tanungin. So, that's the third one. Plagiarism can be tempting in the online setup. Number 4, there are more distractions at home. So, sabi ko nga kanina, you are more prone to distractions. For example, maingay na kapitbahay. Pangatlo, nagbebenta ng taho sa labas. Kumakahol na aso. Social media. Okay? And at the same time, games. Okay? So, you are very distracted at home. Or minsan, nauutusan ka pa ng magulang mo even though you are doing the online learning. So, there are some distractions. And number 5, technology can fail. So, sino na po nakaranas dito na nawalan ng internet during online setup? Ako, guilty ako dyan. Nawalan ako ng internet. I am the teacher, but at the same time, I experience internet connectivity issues. So, this is something that we cannot actually fix. Kasi, this is something that we cannot control. Okay? technology or especially internet connectivity is something that we cannot um yun nga, sabi ko, we cannot control, okay? It depends on the owners or our internet provider what will happen for our internet connectivity. But but what I'm trying to say is that internet cannot always be reliable. So that's the fifth disadvantage of um, online learning. So those are the five disadvantages of online learning. But how can we cope up with these disadvantages? So with that, this is the main point of my talk. Okay. So allow me to give you tips on online learning. So ready na ba kayo? Tinanong. Because first, you should be organized. You should get what you need before you start online setup. So for those who already have their notes, that's the first thing that you should do. You are organized. Okay. Also, by being organized, you can find all the things that you need. For example, kung nakakalat lahat ng gamit mo, and pinapahanap yun ng teacher ninyo, mahihirap kunin. Okay? So as much as possible, prepare what you need for the day before you go to sleep. That's the first thing that I would want you to practice. Stay organized. Okay? Next. Set up your workspace. So when choosing a workspace, try to limit distractions as much as possible, both physical and online. So what can you do for your workspace? Kasi most of you siguro, you have your own rooms, but some, they have their workspace at the living room, some, they have their workspace at the kitchen. So it depends on your setup. Kasi not every one of you have their own rooms, and at the same time, there are some parents that are quite strict in terms of learning. So gusto nila nakikita nila yung anak nila. So what they do, they place their workplace at the living room. But nonetheless, since you are the one learning, okay, sa mga parents pong nakikinig, sana po nakikinig kayo. Since your child or your children are the ones learning, please give them the workspace that they need. Avoid distractions sa ingay, and at the same time, avoid online distractions as well. Okay? So, next. This one is very important. Make a schedule. Sabi nga kanina, one of the advantage, and at the same time, disadvantage of online learning is that you are your own boss, especially of your time, and you have a lot of freedom. So, if you can utilize that freedom positively, try to make a schedule. For example, during module class, yan, most of you, siguro, during your module days, you have a lot of free time. So, what I advise you to do, kasi we have this habit na kapag, kanyari, may deadline, a month, lagi natin sinasabi, ay, 1 month pa naman. 1 month pa naman. Tapos, nakalipas sa isang linggo. Wala, 3 weeks pa naman, 3 weeks pa naman. Nakalipas yung 2 linggo, 2 months, 2 weeks pa naman, 2 weeks. Hanggang sa iisang araw na lang, wala ka pa rin nagagawa. So, what I advise you, gentlemen, to do is that whenever there is something that is, or there's a deadline given already, way behind or way before the deadline itself, be sure to do it. Okay? Kasi you will benefit from it. For example, binigay yung deadline sa inyo a month before. Ginawa mo na siya on the first week. Yung buong 3 weeks mo na yun, pahinga ka na. Diba? If you can do everything already on the day it was already given to you, you will benefit you will benefit from it. Kasi lagi nirereklamo kasi this is something that I always hear from the students. Okay? Sir, hindi po namin nagawa kasi patong-patong na, it already compiled. Sir, ang dami po kasi pinapapasa. Tapos pag tinanong ko, gumawa ka ba ng schedule? O di siya sumasagot. Okay? So to avoid that, kasi alam mo na you already know that it will compile if you do not do it on time. So the best way to prevent that one is to already do it. So the first thing, and on doing that, you should make your schedule. Okay? So time management, learn to manage your time. Guys, I know you're just grade 5 and grade 6, but in the junior level, there is a lot of difference, especially in the difficulty of the subject. So it is very important for you to practice time management. Okay. So that's the third one. Next, be an active participant. Hindi to yung pabibo sa klase, hindi to yung Jollibee na kailangan lahat ng tinatanong ni teacher sinasagot, but rather it is staying online, okay, staying online and keeping in touch with your teacher. For example, you have consultation periods, be sure to participate on that. Kasi, for example, wala ka namang question, but your classmate might have a question na kailangan mo rin. It will be beneficial to you. So be sure that you stay active during both online and module classes. So that's the fourth one. Next, in connection to the fourth point, stay connected. That's the fifth one. Stay connected not only to your teacher but also with your classmates. Alam ko yung iba sa inyo, you have your Discord accounts, you use it for gaming, but how about you use it as well in the online setup, on the online learning, diba? So you will see the difference between using Discord only in games and using Discord as a form of communicating with your classmates, especially if you have group activities. So it is very important to stay connected. Just keep in mind that I am not stopping you from playing games. Okay? Kasi trend na yan eh. You need something to relax. You need something to keep you stress-free. So nandiyan yung games. Hindi ko kayo pinipigilan. But at the same time, be sure to utilize all of your apps that you use in gaming in your online setup as well. Para alam yun, pag tinanong ng magulang ninyo, ba't ka nasa Discord, ma? Gumagawa po kami ng assignment. Pero wag yun naman gawing dahilan yun, di ba? Baka mamaya, pagdating nyo sa online class, ginagawa nyo lang dahilan yung Discord. So use it positively. Okay? So that's the meaning of stay connected. Next, number 6, have an open mind. So in the online setup, gentlemen, di ba, rather in the traditional setup, we have this connotation that all of the information coming from our teachers is the only thing that is correct. Tama? Kaya nga minsan, mas takot pa tayo sa teachers natin kaysa sa magulang natin. Because we think that teachers already knows what is best for us, which is actually true in some sense. But remember, we are on the online environment, and the school and your teachers that are expecting everyone to have an access to the internet. And there are a lot of resources, there are a lot of information that's in the internet that might contradict to what is the teacher is teaching you. So what you should need, gentlemen, the online setup is that you should have an open mind. Hindi to networking ha, but rather you should have an open mind on what you see and what your teacher tells you. So if you have an opinion or if you want to clarify something, sabi ko nga kanina, number 4, stay active. Try to ask your teacher, sir or ma'am, ano po bang tama dito? Kasi sabi po sa research na to, ito. Sabi yun naman po ito. So try to clarify things. Okay? And having an open mind is one way for you to learn. Kasi kapag close-minded ka, lahat na sinasabi sa'yo yun lang. And it is not learning. It is like accepting without even questioning what it is you're accepting. Okay? So it is not learning. Okay? So be sure to have an open mind. Next, in connection to having open mind is that you should ask questions. Sabi nga sa right med, huwag mahiyang magtanong. So always ask questions, especially in this setup that we have. We are very limited to ask questions kasi kapag nasa traditional classroom tayo, we can just go to the faculty room. Well, hindi ko alam kung ginagawa nyo ito, but in ours, in Southridge, okay, you can just go to the faculty room, kakato ka lang doon, and then you can ask the teacher a question. And we are very happy when students do that, when they ask questions. Kasi it means that they are very interested to the topic, and at the same time, it shows that they are willing to learn. So, if you have questions, do not be afraid or do not be shy to ask your questions. So, that's the 7th one. Number 8. Hold yourself accountable. So, actually, in the online setup, whether you are grade 1, grade 5, or sabihin natin when you are grade 7 and you're already in junior high, you must have this sense of accountability. Pag di mo nagawa, di mo nagawa. Okay? Do not make excuses. For example, di mo nagawa yung deadline mo. You do not have the reason to tell us na, sir, wala po kong oras, because the teachers already planned it out. They gave the deadlines to you. So, it is already up to you whether you will make it or not. Sabi ko nga kanina, you are your own boss in this online setup. You have a lot of freedom. So, whatever happens, you will always be accountable to it. Okay? So, have this sense of accountability. Hindi porket nasa online setup tayo, ibig sabihin nun, kapag hindi kayo pinaalalahanan ng teacher ninyo, araw-araw, ibig sabihin nung kasalanan nila. Hindi ganun. We are not 24/7 online, and we are trusting you guys. Your teachers are trusting you to be responsible enough. So hold yourself accountable in the online setup. And lastly, maybe this is the most important one. Figure out how you learn best. Okay? So paano ka ba natututo? Matututo ka ba kapag may music? Natututo ka ba kapag tahimik? Natututo ka ba pag may kasama? Natututo ka ba pag mag-isa ka lang? So it depends on you. So with that being said, this might be the question. So, I have a question to everyone. Do you want to know what type of learner are you? So, what I want you to do, gentlemen, is to answer the one that will be posted in our chat box by Mr. Consad. So, just wait for the link. So, it is 18 item quiz. So, it is not, this is just for fun. Let's just see what type of learner are you. So, with that, is the next topic. What type of learner am I? So, Mr. Consad, so if you can share the link to them, maybe I'll give you 10 minutes or 7 minutes to answer. Okay? So, yon. So, with that, I hope you already accessed the quiz. So, good luck. Hindi po siya recorded, Let's just see what type of learner are you. Again, it is not proven. It is just for fun, formative activity. So 7 minutes starts now. Okay, so we're back after a short break. I hope everyone's already done with the 18 item quiz, and I hope you were already able to see somehow formative activity lang naman. So just for fun. What type of learner are you? So there are we have 4 basic types of learners. So there are actually a lot, but I trim it down to 4. Okay. So there are 4 types of learning styles. So let's discuss the 4 basic learning styles. So for those of you, okay, who got visual learner as their type of learning. So these visual learners are learn best through what they see. So if you're a visual learner, it means that you like to see diagrams. You like seeing videos, especially when the teacher is teaching. You want to see videos rather than the teacher discussing by words. So gusto mo meron ka nakikita. So visual learner ka. You learn when you see it in front of you, or you see something. Okay, you are seeing it through diagrams, graph, etc., etc. So for those who got visual learners, very understandable visual learners. So learning through seeing. Okay, so visual learners. Second one, of course, we have auditory learners as well. So they learn best while actively listening. So these learners are more inclined into reading audiobooks, okay, or listening to audiobooks, or listening to their teacher. Okay, so they learn through what they hear. Okay, the next one, I can say that it is the combination of the two. Somehow, read and write. Okay, so these are the learners that they learn best by taking notes during the class. Sir, sa online setup kasi hindi na namin siya ginagawa eh. But I really encourage everyone to do note taking during synchronous classes kasi it will be very helpful for you. Kasi ang lagi sinasabi, sir, may recording naman po kami. I can just review the recording. But you cannot actually put it in your long-term memory. What you see, it is much better if you put more senses into it. So aside from seeing, aside from hearing, you should also write it para natatandaan mo na narinig mo siya, nakita mo siya at the same time na isulat mo siya. Okay? So for those who got read and write, that is how you learn. And for the last one, we have the kinesthetic learners. So they tend to learn best when they are physically active or through learning activities through involved active participation. So baka naman sabihin nyo, sir, ibig sabihin po ba nito, lugi kami. So for those who got kinesthetic learners as their type of learning, hindi po kayo lugi. Hindi po porket sinabi dito na you should be physically active. Ibig sabihin nun, lugi ka na sa online setup. Kasi first of all, we cannot meet physically. What's the meaning of kinesthetic learners? That aside from physical activities, you can also learn through active participation. So one good thing of kinesthetic learners is that they practice. They do practice. And that is one of the elements you need to use in math, in learning. Diba? Sabi nga natin sa math, sa teacher natin sa math, if you want to learn math, you should always practice solving. So ayun naman yung advantage ng kinesthetic learners. Hindi lang siya involved sa PE. Hindi siya involved sa ganun. So you should have active participation. Now, so those are the 4 types of learning styles. But of all of the topics that I gave you, starting from online learning, second, from the advantages and the struggles of online learning, the online tips, the 9 online tips, and the four styles of learning, it will always come down to this one. Since we are at home, how do we create our own classroom? Okay, kasi there's a big difference between the feeling of at home and the feeling of being at the classroom. So how do we imitate our classroom? So with that, allow me to give you the 5 steps to create a perfect workspace at home. So 5 lang naman siya. First one, consider your work needs. What do you need? Kailangan mo ba ng printer? Kailangan mo ba malapit ka sa kusina? Lagi ka ba nagugutom? Lagi ka ba nasi-CR? So consider your work needs. Okay? So be sure that all of the things that you need is your reach or maaabot mo or malapit sa'yo. So that's the first thing that you should consider. Your work needs. Next one. Designate a specific workspace. So sabi ko nga kanina, saan ka ba mas sanay? Are you learning, are you fond of learning alone? So pwede sa kwarto mo. But are your parents strict? So they want you at the living room. So doon ka nila lalagay. So it depends to you eh. Kung gusto mong mag-set ng workspace sa kusina, sa living room, at your own home, sa balcony, sa rooftop, sa garage, or sa CR, kayo bahala. Basta you should know. Okay, you should know best on how you should learn. Okay? Next. Number 3, work with what you have. So, this is the common problem that I see in the students on online setup. They always complain regarding their equipment at home. Sir, hindi po kasi gaming laptop yung gamit ko eh. Sir, hindi po kasi umiilaw yung keyboard namin. Sir, hindi po umiilaw yung headset ko. Again, gentlemen, we are in the pandemic. So you should always work with what you have. Okay? Hindi po napupulot ang pera kung saan-saan. So, kung ano yung meron tayo sa bahay, kung kung normal na PC lang yan, you should always you can always work it or use it rather. Kasi the minimum requirement naman for online setup is that as long as you can open your tabs, you can open your emails, you can open your Google Meet if you're using Google Meet or Zoom, and as long as you can open Google Forms or Google Suite. Hindi mo naman kailangan ng gaming PC or gaming laptop for the online setup. Okay? Kasi hindi naman tayo maglalaro for the online setup. Baka kasi ayun lang yung naisip niyo. But again, work with what you have. Do not demand a lot from your parents. Okay? Next. Prioritize comfort. Sir, sa lahat po ng sinabi mo, mukhang ito yung gusto ko. Ibig sabihin po mo doon, sir, I can set up my workspace on my bed. That's definitely the worst thing that you can do in the online setup. Setting your workspace at your bed. Why? Because it will, masasanay yung katawan mo na when you are working or you're studying, nasa kama ka palagi. And we know, kapag nasa kama tayo, we always tend to be sleepy. So that will happen in your online experience kapag sa bedroom ka nag-set up ng workspace mo. When I say prioritize comfort, yung wala kang distractions. Okay? That's the meaning of prioritize comfort. It is not for you to sleep, okay, to feel relaxed, but rather it is for you to not be distracted. That is comfort. Okay? Ayun yung tinutukoy kong comfort. And for the last one, keep it organized. Sabi ko nga kanina, you should, first thing that you should do in the online learning, the first tip is that you should keep things organized. And with that, those are the 5 tips or steps to create a perfect workspace at home. And that's the end of my talk regarding online learning. Once again, good morning everyone, and I hope you learned a lot from this talk. And may susunod pa tayong talk. And once again, thank you very much for listening, and God bless.